Get over it, Reverend Karin. It's just the door. And I love how that speaks to the feeling that we have in this community, right? We always say, whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. And today is such a wonderful example of that. And so I would like to add my welcome to each and everyone here and to those of you who are joining us from across the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are the New Vision Center. For over 30 years, we have been a beacon of love, of light, a place that is safe for people to come and to have transformations. I don't know if I'm going to ask for a show of hands, but I might. For those who have experienced a transformation through this teaching, through this community, through being in close relationship with one another here. Let's look around. Yeah, look around. Thank you. I think I saw a couple hands going up on the other side of the camera too. Yes, that is when people ask me, and we're having a lot of conversations about what is it that makes the New Vision Center such a thriving community? What is going on over there? What is happening? Well, that is what we're going to talk about today. Because I think it behooves us to take a moment and acknowledge and feel into what is different, what has changed. What is this energy of uplifting, of calling forth people who have not been here before? So often we look at what's not working, how can we fix it, what do we need to do differently? And I say, let's go ahead and take the time when something is working really well, and let's take a look at, well, what is it? As Jeff Hargis said, how can I bottle this up? What are the components? So that is what we're looking at today. Are you ready for that? Yeah. You are a very responsive audience, congregation today, and I love that. I really love that. I also love that you don't care if I say hold your applause. You just... we do what we do. So we are in a 3-week series that I called The Art of Belonging. And last week, if you were here, we took a look at what is it within me that I can shift to open up, to hear the invitations, either the direct, explicit invitations or the overall invitation of life to live a deeper, more fulfilled life, to give back these gifts that I have been given and to shine our light so brightly that people are attracted, that people are wanting to know what is it that you know, and through that activity, we can heal one another. We can create that safe space for one another. To even be open to heal. If you were here, you might remember this unique device. I should have bought stocks in this because everybody who came into the office this week, they're like, what was that thing? So this is called a power stick. And if you were here, you remember we had a circle of 140 people and we held hands, and this is what happened. And then somebody let go and it stops. And what that is showing us is that there's this current running through us, and that when we opt in it, and when we opt in to connect with it, it has an effect on us. It changes us. We also looked at the book The Little Prince, and I shared what happened when the little prince met the fox. And if you have never read that book, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful little book. And this is what the fox said. If you tame me, then we shall need each other. To me, you will be unique in all the world. And to you, I shall be unique in all the world. And that is, I believe, what we do here. We, as we come here, as we are willing to let others see us just the way we are, in the real love movement, they call that warts and all. This is who I am. This is who I am. I am not having to put on a mask. I don't have to protect myself from letting you see the places in me where I am hurting, where I was hurt, where I made a meaning that was wrong, an experience. I don't have to protect myself because we have established this container of trust here. This container that invites us in and lets us be for some blessed time in this during the week when we have to, play different roles and show up a certain way. But we have this place where we are invited to just be who we are. And so this week's talk is focused on the growth. What is the growth that one can experience in community when we are willing to say, here I am? And what is needed in order to do that is vulnerability. Vulnerability. And for some people that is very, very difficult, and I don't want to glance over that, because this human experience is messy at times. There have been times where we opened ourselves up and somebody judged us. I don't know if you remember, but last week I had that wonderful quote, and there was that one word I just couldn't pronounce right. And I got some feedback on that. And it was like, oh, isn't that interesting? So is your expectation that the senior minister can pronounce every word correctly? Yeah. It's interesting. But more importantly, I had to look on my inside, because if you know me, it bugs me when that happens. So I had to make peace on my inside. And how often is that somebody said something on the outside and it's not that severe, but oh my God, what we say on the inside to ourselves. Wow, yeah. So let's breathe in. Let's breathe in, and I like to think about just allowing our inside to soften. So however things go different than planned today, may I regard myself with kindness. May I regard myself with kindness. Please say that with me. May I regard myself with kindness. Yes. Great. So what does it take for a community to become a safe space? it takes trust. And trust is one of those words that I sometimes used as a weapon. I don't know if it ever happened to you that somebody said, I just don't trust you. I just don't trust you. Or the opposite, I trust you. And what does that really mean? It's such a loaded word, is it not? And it means something very, very different for different people. And I love the work of Dr. Brené Brown, who has taken the time through her research to really analyze what is trust, what is the anatomy of trust, what is it made up of. And I think that is what is important when we ask ourselves, how can we create this safe space that we are yearning for? How can we as a community create this? And so we are going to take this time today to go through this wonderful acronym, which is BRAVING, and we're going to really take a look at all those different components. And my intention is that we engage in a dialogue with ourselves. How do I feel about this? Where am I in this particular area? Or how important is this for me? You'll be happy to know that we prepared some bookmarks, and as you leave, we will have some bookmarks at the door with those words on it, and there are also some in the front pocket. But don't look at them now. Stay with me, please. Shouldn't have said that, I know. Somebody said I shouldn't have said that. No, we don't clap right now. This will be the Sunday when New Vision went rogue, you know. All right, so let's take a look at braving. The first thing is boundaries. Boundaries is essential. In order for anybody to be vulnerable, we have to have boundaries. We have to know exactly, this is what I'm willing to share, and this is where it stops. This is where my boundary is. This is what I am willing to engage with, and here it stops. And we all know people who have strong, healthy boundaries, right? We know people that we feel safe enough to ask questions of because we know that when the answer comes, that is exactly what they feel, what they want to say. They're the people that when we say, can you help me, who say, no, that's not working for me right now. Great, thank you. Can you help me? You know, it gives us the opportunity to move on. Versus, can you help me? Yes. Oh, I shouldn't have said yes. I don't know why I said that. Now I have to do it. I don't like it. It's not going to work out. All that, right? So healthy boundaries. It is so important to remember that if I want to become vulnerable, I have to be crystal clear on my boundaries, and I have to be willing to communicate them. And we can always tell if we are in alignment and good with our boundaries because it comes out just naturally. Yeah, no, that's not working for me. That's it. That's all. Boundaries are very important individually and also as a community. I'm reading a lot of books on how to build communities, and the first principle is boundaries. And the way it is regarded when we take a look at community is, like, we need to know as an outsider looking into any kind of community, I need to know exactly what are those values that are shared within this community. That needs to be very clear. And then as I approach this community, I can decide, is that a value I'm interested in? Is that a value I would like to participate? Is that a value I would like to have in my life? So if I ask you, what is the value that is lived here at the New Vision Center? I would assume I hear love, inclusivity, perhaps kindness. What else? Joy, service, passion, generosity. Yes, yes. So as a community, when we think about boundaries, is we are doing everything we can to ensure that within this community, in the inner circle, those qualities, those values are held up high. And what happens when somebody enters and something happens and there's rub, because believe me, there is also rub. I'm not saying nothing ever goes sideways. But we identified, we can feel it immediately, and we know how to work with it. Because the boundary is that if you don't value these values, if you don't strive to live them, you will not be part of that inner boundary. That is how we can identify who is in and who is on the outside wanting to come in. And the stronger and the clearer the values are within, the more people are wanting to come in. It's the same concept as our own personal boundaries. The second one is reliability. The R of braving is reliability. It builds trust that I can expect the same thing to happen over and over and over. A great example for that is my daughter, Stephanie, who has a 1.5-year-old, my granddaughter, who is practicing her no. And so Stephanie started this thing that says, if, and then they say something, if you now put your shoes on, then we go for a walk. Because Anneliese just wants to go for a walk, barefoot, right? So she's establishing it, and she does it over and over. I spent a couple hours with her, and I'm like, all right, I got it, you know? But so did the little one, you know? She's like, oh, shoes, if shoes, then walk. If shoes, then walk. So, reliability. And so when we come to the New Vision Center, there are certain things when we enter this community that we can expect that will always, always be there. The people who are in service, our practitioners, our ministers, the prayer ministry, they are in service ready to receive you. When one of our practitioners or one of our ministers is not able to be in that space, they are not in service. Reliability is so important. And we see how wonderfully it works. A couple of months ago, Amy Diamondstein. Yes, would you stand, Amy? Amy is with us today. Amy took over the yoga center that we have right here on campus. Yeah. Thank you. And so what we have seen is an abundance of people coming to these yoga classes because there is a reliability established. When it says there is a class, by golly, there's a class happening. And that fuels trust and growth. The next one is accountability. Accountability stands for, if I mess up, if I make a mistake, I apologize and I make amends. And I expect you to do the same. And I expect that this place, this space is open for us to make mistakes, because we do. And that there is a path forward. I messed up. How can we do this differently? Very important. Very important to build the trust enough for people to say, I got to talk about that. What happened that didn't work for me? Can we have a conversation about this? Accountability. And then there's the vault. Often, Reverend Leslie and I, we are like, okay, we're going to go into the vault. The vault stands for absolute confidentiality. Now that concept is pretty clear to most people. But there's another aspect to it. It is that sometimes we hear something about someone else and we kind of use it as a intimacy building tool. Oh, have you heard what happened to so-and-so? And it's gossip, right? It is gossip. So part of this vault of the V that is so important is to be very clear what is mine to share and what is mine not to share. Now we hold that so sacred in our vision group that we speak about it every time we meet. It's our core agreement. Whatever happens in vision group stays in vision group. And it was interesting on this weekend, we even had one of the couples share that means also when couples talk with one another. It's just a non-thing. We don't talk about it. We hold it that sacred. Very important. It goes a long ways to heal relationships and to build trust. Integrity. Brené Brown does this wonderful thing. She says, I do what, I should read it because it's so beautiful. Do what is, it's in here. Where is it? There it is. You choose courage over comfort. You choose what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy. And you choose to practice your values rather than simply professing them. Rather than simply saying, oh, yeah, at New Vision Center, we stand for love. We're revealing the power of love. Now, we think about that every conversation we have. So important to build trust. Non-judgment, that's the one I talked about earlier. Not only when somebody does something that we don't agree with, but very, very important of how do I feel on the inside. I think that judging ourselves harshly runs rampant in this world. If I could have a magic wand, I would use it to ask people to be kinder to themselves. Because that is where it starts, right? Maya Angelou says, I don't trust people who don't love themselves and say, I love you. Yeah. We have to find ways to be kind to ourselves, to forgive ourselves, to accept who we are. And the last one is generosity. The willingness to interpret whatever is happening with a generous heart. Something is happening, I might not understand it, but I know that that person loves this community just as much as I love it. So interpreting whatever happens with a generous heart. And all of these acronyms, this braving acronym, really starts within. It starts by asking myself, how am I with my boundaries? There happens to be a workshop coming up in 2 months on boundaries. Just wanting to share that. Boundaries are so important. How can I be a reliable place for Source to show up? How can I be accountable? Honor conversations, be in the vault. Not judge, do what's right, and be generous. And I believe that all of those help us to build trust in our own lives and in this life of this beloved community. Ernest Holmes says, trust life, There's no power in the universe which wishes anyone ill. Life is good and God is good. Why not accept this and begin to live? No one need prepare to meet God. We are meeting God in the rising sun, in the flowing stream, in the budding rose, in the joy of friendship and love, and in the silence of our own soul. So let us prepare to meet God as we go into prayer and anchor this truth. Please join me. If you're a practitioner of this teaching, please rise. Any ministers in service, please hold this consciousness with me. This deep realization that there's one power, one presence, that the divine is everywhere present. It is right here, right now, made powerfully manifest. So we breathe in. Recognizing Spirit showing up today as love, as light, as peace, as harmony, as clarity and wisdom. As we're feeling our hearts softening and opening, we include all these beloveds who are here in the sanctuary, all the beloveds who are joining us online, and all of the beloveds who ever have set foot into this sacred, sacred place. And so we hold the beloveds who placed the prayer request in the prayer box in the foyer in the highest, knowing that love and light reigns supreme in their lives. We know this for Brian and Margaret, for Ellen and Marty, for Connor and Rachel, for Sam, Lisa, and Madison, for Scott, James, Nancy, and Julie, and for every person who holds a prayer request on their hearts. We know that life is good, and life is yearning to make manifest exactly what it is that serves our highest and best. And so with a grateful, grateful heart, we place this word into universal law, to the law that says yes, always yes. And together we anchor this truth. And so it is.